My first tip is to get really good at applying gel pads. If you ever have a set of gel pads that are partially dried out, all you have to do is mist them with your nano mister, or you can get them wet. I will have my client look up towards me. If she is slightly closing her eye, just use your pinky to gently pull down on the lower lash. And there we go. And let your client know that blinking is totally fine. Okay, and now close and keep closed. So once the eyes close, the gel pads move. Tell your client to keep her eyes closed. And then with her eyes closed, you can adjust your gel pad as needed. So there was some outer lashes poking out. So I simply lift the upper eyelid, pull the gel pad up, and then lie it down. You want to get so good at applying gel pads that you don't need tape. Okay, my next tip for speeding up your set is to use permanent double-sided tape. It has to be permanent, otherwise it will not stick to your hand. Apply it just to the nook of your left hand or your non-dominant hand. And this will be a place where you can put lashes that get away from you. Next tip, having your glue in a ring right on your thumb. This stops you from having to stop and pick up glue, and it even actually stops you from having to reapply glue. So most people work from a tray. That would be an obvious thing. I set it right down beside the client's head. I forgot to mention here, with the glue, you'll notice that I've filled this about, I'm gonna say, a third of the way full. This keeps the glue wet so that I don't have to stop at any time during my set to refill my glue. This glue will stay wet because it's surrounded by itself. I mean, we have to replace our glue every 2 months anyways to keep it fresh. Don't worry about wasting glue. In the event you do have to apply tape, it should only be in an isolated area. The other reason we want to have a double-sided tape on our thumb is because you are going to determine what is the longest length I'm working with for this client. Say it's a 12, and I'm going to lay it on the bottom corner of my double-sided tape. So now instead of having to reach down to my lash tray, I'm going to be reaching right here. Tilt your head up. And that's another thing. Your client needs to move to favor your comfortability. I've also had lash techs, when I've gotten my own lashes done, who they use a Kleenex, which is great. That's what I do, just to avoid oil transfer from the client to me and me to my client. So it's just a nice little barrier. In the event I needed to wipe something, I have a clean surface to do so. But one lash tech that I went to taped it to my head, which is absolutely a waste of time. Another tech I went to used a face cloth. So the reason I wouldn't use a face cloth, sure, it's a nice touch, but then you have to do laundry. Whereas this, you just chuck it out. When we're working on a client, another thing I want to show you here, think about the time it would take. You're losing your focus every time you have to reach down past this client's head because my eyes have to adjust to the tray below me versus working right from my thumb here and applying it like so. I've applied my lash. It kind of fell to the side. That's totally fine. You can see I have 1, 2, and 3 natural lashes exposed. I'm going to keep my isolation with hand 2, or my non-dominant hand, left hand. Still keeping the isolation, and look how quickly I can apply 3 lashes. When I go to pick up my next lash, I am keeping that isolation. This is another thing I've felt lash technicians do. While they're going to pick up their next lash, they lose the isolation. You want to keep this isolation because then your extensions are having that time to dry. Left hand should always keep the isolation, just so the glue gets that extra time to dry. So we're bouncing around the eye. This is another great tip. Rather than switching from one eye to the next, we're going to complete, unless you have the case where, say, a client is in a rush and she has to leave within a certain amount of time, so you know you can only accomplish 3/4 of that eye, that would be the only reason you're going to work back and forth. And how I would do that is I would take my time limit, say I only had an hour, and I would work for half an hour on eye 1 and half an hour on eye 2. I wouldn't necessarily jump back and forth unless I was nearing the end where I felt like my time might be kind of dicey. It's just really important to keep that isolation. You're constantly brushing through the lashes. So again, no reason you need to even brush through the lashes at the end, because I find my sets look great because I'm constantly brushing through them with my left hand tweezer. And then at the end, then I would use my nano mister only. I don't even have a fan. I would use my nano mister for about 15 seconds on each eye. And then if you felt that you had some lashes that had gone astray, then you could do a simple brush with your tweezers. You would hold, lift, make sure nothing is sticking to the pad, and then just simply remove. I had a situation recently where a client wanted a cat eye look. A cat eye wouldn't necessarily be doable for her lash growth because the average client has extremely short lashes on the outer eye. How we are going to overcome this if the client does want a cat eye look, you can do a kitten eye, which you would start your longest lashes at this portion. And so these lashes here, what I would recommend for them is rather than using your fullest lash, so the max that I will do for a weight is 0.15 or 0.10, and it's a flat lash. That's kind of my secret. If you have someone with really thin lashes, you're going to want to use a 0.10, and that way you're really protecting the integrity of the natural lash. But what I would do for someone who wanted a cat eye with extremely short outer lashes is I would actually pick up, so I would do the entirety of the eye with a 0.15 thickness or 0.1 as needed, and then I would pick up my 0.05. These are volume lashes, and I would go ahead and do that outer corner with my volume lashes. That way you're still getting the length that you need for the cat eye. Oh, there's two there. Not a big deal because that was a decent sized outer lash. Let's say on one of these little tiny ones here, it still has a good sized base to it, so I'm not worried about that. It's not a full-on baby lash. It does look like a full-grown lash. It's just an outer lash, so it's shorter. Exactly like we see with the inner corner is what we see with the outer corner on many eyes. So you can still lash them with a 12. You're just going to want to move down to your volume lash thickness. Another quick note that I have, I buy the double-sided glue rings, let it dry, and then flip it and use the other side for another set. So there's a lot of waste when it comes to the lash industry, and that's just one thing you can do to kind of at least use your glue ring twice. That was the other point I wanted to make about the double-sided tape is when you pick up too many, rather than going and putting them back on the tray, you could just pop them onto your double-sided tape and work from your thumb. So this is saving a lot of time because your eyes don't have to worry about focusing on a bunch of different places. That totally messes up my flow when I have to change my line of sight from the client's eye or head to something completely like 10 inches away. I hope you guys like all these tips. Let me know what else you want to know about lashing or lifting or brow mapping.